welcome to Marketing Monday. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful time with friends and family and good food. I'm Brittany Sweeney with the Livestock Conservancy in Austin. I'm sorry. I'm just like having a case of the Mondays. Like, I spilled my coffee this morning.
No.
It's just been one day after another. But I am super excited to be here with Samantha Gasson. Sam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Samantha Gasson, and I work with the Food Animal Concerns Trust, which is headquartered in Chicago. And then I'm also with Bull City Farm in Durham, North Carolina.
Yay, Durham. Well, before we get started today and talking a little bit about turkey and turkey marketing and some online classes on your farm, let's say a quick thank you to ManaPro. So thank you, ManaPro, for sponsoring our chat today. And I'm going to play a quick little video from them. It's about 1 minute, so we hope you'll stick around.
Champions, colleagues,
roommates,
and personal trainers.
Whatever role they play,
they're an important part of our lives.
In their quiet way,
and their not so quiet way.
They keep us young.
On our feet,
on the go.
They pull us back to nature
and push us toward the next adventure.
And as much as we count on them,
they count on us all the more.
To nurture their lives
with the same commitment.
To protecting them,
helping them grow
and thrive.
Treating them
as well as they treat us. By giving them a little more of our lives.
Because no matter what role they play,
out here
or in here,
we're here to make their lives the best they can be.
ManaPro, nurturing life.
All right, welcome back. Thank you, ManaPro, and thanks everybody for sticking around. We're glad you're here. It's November. It's Turkey Month. It's my favorite month of the year because it's my favorite holiday.
Is it because there's so much food?
There's so much food. I love turkey. I love cooking turkey. I love seeing turkeys in the field. Like, I don't know. I just love turkeys.
I love turkeys too, but it's not, I don't know that it's my favorite month of the year.
That's okay. It's fall. It gets a little cooler. You can wear sweaters.
Yeah. That part I like.
Oh, it's great. Well, I thought today we'd start off by celebrating turkeys. And Sam, you raise heritage Spanish black turkeys as well as your bronze turkeys.
I do.
So you had quite an experiment going this year with your two different
types. I did. So we've been raising the bronze broad-breasted for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, something like that, maybe 5 years, something like that. It's been a while. And love them. We didn't mean to get them originally. We meant to get the just the bronze turkey. And then it was a mess up when we placed our order. We accidentally ordered the bronze broad-breasted. And then we loved them so much that we didn't turn back. We just decided to stick with them. So we were adamant against doing any kind of heritage birds for the longest time until really we found that people really wanted a heritage bird. So we use Valley of the Moon turkeys, and they have a black Spanish as well that they offer. And so we decided to go ahead and this year experiment and go ahead and do the black Spanishes. And I loved them. I think they were really fun. And so we gave everybody an option. They could choose either the black Spanish or they could choose the bronze broad-breasted. And we only did 100 of the black Spanishes just because we weren't quite sure how they would work out. And we sold out of all of our black Spanishes. We actually had to turn people away. I know. And, we were able to get them bronze broad-breasted. But I did an experiment, and Brittany helped me break down these turkeys. But we did an experiment on how well they compared to one another. The bronze versus the black. And even though the blacks were raised for longer, they ended up being pretty comparable in size to the bronze broad-breasted. And so one of the things that we were afraid of is like there wouldn't be as much breast meat as there, as a whole, as compared to the whole bird. But that was not the case. They ended up doing really well. So we're pretty happy with them. I don't know if I'm frozen or you're frozen, Brittany.
I seem to be cutting in and out. Can you see me okay?
You keep freezing. I assumed it was me, and I'm talking away, and probably no one can hear me.
Let's see. I'm going to try to turn my camera off, see if that helps at all.
Okay. Because I can hear you. It's just your camera's
Is that
coming
any
in.
better? Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. Sorry, we're waiting for Brittany to come back. She's in charge. Oh, thank you, Martha. So no one's freezing there. You must be in the South somewhere. Oh, here she comes. She's coming back now. But okay, I guess I can continue talking about my turkeys. So we, the one thing about the Black Spanish is we were a little bit. You're back. Okay, you're. So Martha B says that you're not frozen, but you are frozen for me. But one of the things I liked about the, Can you hear me?
Let's see. Of course I would be having computer issues during the middle of a live. Why wouldn't I be having issues?
That's just the way it is. It's okay. Lisa Marie says
some days you just have a case of the Mondays, and that just happens to be one of them. And that's okay. That's part of.
So, Lisa, are both Brittany and myself frozen, or just Brittany? Hey, can you hear us at all?
Okay, let's see if this works. Hopefully, it will. I moved closer to the Wi-Fi. All right, awesome. Well, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us through all of these technical issues. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, good. Yay, it's better. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. And you, Martha.
Thank you, Martha and Lisa, for helping us work through this. I'm glad we're coming through better.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, but I enjoyed raising the Blacks, and we certainly will do them again because it was a lot of fun, and it was fun to see how excited everybody got about the having the option of getting the Black Spanish, and they're very sweet birds, but the bronze bar breasted are as well. They're a lot of fun, and so we had a good time with them. And I don't know how much we would do differently, other than raising more Black Spanish, because obviously we sold out of them, but we did not sell out of the bronze ball breasted. But we raise more than we're going to sell at Thanksgiving, because that's on purpose, because we do turkey sausages and turkey cuts year round, which I think really helps with our Thanksgiving sales, because people have been buying turkey from us. And Martha loves your Heritage Breed poster. I do too.
This is the official poster, right? From the stamp ceremony when we had that last May, and they were kind enough to give it to us for the office. So
that's very cool.
I love it. And you can see the Narragansett turkey right behind me.
Yeah. And that really, when I first thought about doing a heritage breed, the Narragansett was the one I wanted to do. And we tried to go through a local breeder to get a Narragansett. This was 2 years ago. And he had a snafu with his incubator. And so he actually didn't have any turkeys that would be ready. Well, we would not have them ready for Thanksgiving. And we knew that Martha, yes, I do charge more for the heritage birds. I charge $9 a pound for the Black Spanish, and I charged $8 a pound for the bronze ball breasted. I did have some Black Spanish that were bigger, and so up over 20 pounds, we chose to sell those at $8 a pound. Otherwise, that's a really expensive bird. So but yeah, it definitely was worthwhile doing, even though, and we've done a cost analysis as well, and it basically cost us the same amount to raise the Black Spanish as it did the bronze spot breasted. We didn't earn, so that's one of the things I think when people are worried about whether or not they're going to do a heritage breed is whether or not they can make the money off of them. And so we certainly made money off of them. And we're going to be doing a heritage breed turkey. Very excited for you as well, Lisa. You should. And they're fun. But the bronze broad-breasted is super fun too. I've never done the white broad-breasted, so I don't know how they compare to the white broad-breasted. I think flavor-wise, the bronze broad-breasted is better than the white broad-breasted. And we didn't really taste a difference between the bronze broad-breasted and the black Spanish. But I feel like the black Spanish overall were a lot easier to work with. They were kinder on the pasture. They didn't like the bronze broad-breasted are sort of ravenous all the time. And they really do they beat up the pasture. We have to move them pretty frequently. Whereas the black Spanishes, if you give them a large enough area, they do really well. They just did not beat up the pasture quite the same way. So we actually moved them half as often. So they took less time, and we took that in consideration when we were doing our final analysis. So they ate more than the bronze spot breasted, but they took less time. They took less work than the bronze spot breasted did. The only thing I did not like was by the time the hens were ready to be processed, they were in full lay. So they had eggs, and that made because we process on farm, that made evisceration. It's fine if you're doing 5, but if you're doing 100, well, it was probably about 40 or 50 that we ended up doing. It was a pain because it was just hard. It sounds really disgusting. Sorry, but you all raise animals and slaughter them, I'm sure. So you know how it works. But just like getting your hand in the carcass and pulling out the guts, it was really hard with all of those eggs in there. Like they had like fully shelled eggs at the cloacal opening. So that was a pain. That was a big pain. And it was also messy. So because it's really hard not to break those yolks. So then the inside of the bird was messy. So then, we had to hose them out a little bit more because, we spray out the insides of our birds before they go to the next step. And so you had to take that into consideration. So I didn't like raising the hens, even though they were right around 14, 15 pounds when we processed them at 24 weeks or 23 weeks, something like that. So that's a good size, but, and I like that smaller size, but, or that's like the sweet spot for us. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. I forgot to turn off my phone. I'm gonna do it right now. Sorry. So sorry. I hate it when people do that too. Anyway, so that was one of the things that I didn't like about them. Yeah, so just to keep that in mind as well. I've never, because usually I'm processing at 16 weeks with the bronze spot breasted, and of course they just have like the little eggs starting. They're not in full lay at all. So that was not fun. They weren't all sexually mature, but some of them were. Probably about 40 of the 50 were. So something to think about.
That's good to know. Definitely. Would you process them earlier if you could?
I would. Yeah, I always have a market for the smaller birds, especially since COVID. It seems like people don't get together in quite the same large groups they used to. So I could definitely do like a 10-pound bird and sell 10-pound birds all day long. So I think we'll do them. We'll just process them a few weeks earlier. I'll have to take a look at them and see if they've filled out in every way rather than just, like I want their breasts to fill out to their sort of their optimum rather than processing them a little bit younger and having them have a smaller breast. I'd like that to keep that comparison.
Yeah.
That relative comparison, a percentage, not comparison, percentage, from breast to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's going to be an experiment next year, but we're planning on doing 200 of the Spanish blacks next year, and then we'll do 200 of the bronze spot breasted. So we'll see.
Oh, that's great. Well, I love all of your entire process for the turkeys on the consumer end. You make it really easy for people, and you send out your emails and you use a Google form for people to fill out, what size they want and where they want to pick it up. And I just found that really easy to use.
I think I'm going to move to a jot form next year, because one of the problems I have with the Google form, and I don't know if you've anybody who's used a lot of Google forms, if you have to, so what I was doing was I was keeping up with how many, because I was selling out of the bronze bar breast with certain sizes. I sold out of them really quickly, the smaller sizes. And so I was having to go back into that form and remove sizes. Because there isn't really a way to, the way I set it up, there wasn't a good way to eliminate that. So then what happens is when you're looking at the Excel sheet for the report from the Google sheet, then that column totally disappears. So then it's like, yeah. So you have to make sure you're saving previous copies, because all the data is still there, except for it doesn't correspond with the headings anymore. So I think I might use a jot form next time, because I think I can, I don't know what it's like. I'm gonna have to experiment a little bit, but that was my biggest challenge, because I didn't want to disappoint too many people. And I did give 3 choices. I gave first, second, and third choice. And I've done that different ways in the past. And I do not assign a particular size to a bird, I did that the first year, and I will never do that again. So when 60 people want the exact size and I have to hunt through the turkeys for the exact size, we have it down to a process, definitely it's a streamlined process now. But so I do a range. I usually do a 1 pound, it's 2 pound range. So I'll do like 13 pounds to 14 pounds. And that goes 13.00 to 14.99 pounds. So it's a 2 pound range. And nobody complained about that. That seemed to work. And that gives me some flexibility. And then with the first, second, and third choice, that really helped, because then people who really, really wanted a heritage breed and did not want a bronze, or the other way around, I wasn't just substituting in the next size up or the next size down. It's always the next size up. I wasn't having to I was able to look and say, okay, they only want a Spanish black, so maybe I can give them a bird, and then somebody else I can sort of, somebody who doesn't care as much, I can move them around. But it's a lot to organize, and it's a lot to keep track of. But
do you want to talk a little bit about your process from you tell everybody the story ahead of time, and then you
so I definitely
have a deposit and
so I start out with I start in June actually taking deposits, because that's when people want to be able to get the size they want, and I do it you get priority based on how soon you signed up. So like if it comes down to 2 people wanting a 13 pound bird, and one of them signed up in June and one of them signed up in November, the June person's going to get their bird, not the November person. And so I set up and I do a $20 deposit, and then that continues through the week of Thanksgiving, and then the week before Thanksgiving, and then I stop that ability, and then people still call and want to go ahead and get a bird. We have, 10 people in the last 2 days leading up to Thanksgiving want a new bird. And luckily, because we raise more than we need throughout the year, we have birds throughout the year. So we're able to do that. So that's nice. But and then once they've signed up for their deposit, then they don't hear from me until October. And then in October, I've usually processed I do not do any fresh birds. My birds are all frozen, but we have a walk-in freezer and a walk-in fridge. So I'm able to thaw out birds for people. So I give people the option of having their birds thawed out. And then I also give them the option of keeping them frozen. And then I usually do 3 pickup days. So our farmers market, 2 at our farmers markets, and then 1 on the farm. And then I always follow up, because, I want them to buy from me next year too. So I always follow up with the day, usually it's a few days before Thanksgiving, with stories about the birds that they can share with their guests, because it is a more expensive bird, whether it's the black Spanish or the bronze ball breast. It's a lot more expensive than getting a butterball, and people like to be able to share those stories. And I usually, have a cute little story. I've got one that I trot out every single year with the bronze ball breasted, and I've got one I'm probably going to trot out from year to year with the black Spanish, but just to give I get a little bit of the history of the breed and that kind of thing. So it's just fun stuff that's fun to share with the people at your table, because it is a special thing, and it is expensive and all that kind of stuff. And then I follow up afterwards with leftover recipes, what you can do with your leftover bird, because our birds tend to be larger. I've got a puppy and she's biting me. Stop it. I've got my hands behind my chair and she's nibbling on my fingers.
I hear her.
Sorry. Come here.
He's so
Nope,
cute.
don't want to. Ugh, she's annoying. She's so cute. But yeah, so then sorry. We do I do hey shush. I do a follow-up with different she's not gonna stop. There you go. I'll let her chew
I
on
want
this.
to talk turkey too.
I follow it with leftover recipes. So I have I put it together in a little booklet and it's a PDF and I just share it with everybody. And this year I had every intention of using that as a lead magnet to pull people in to get more emails, to get people on my email list. But I never got around to doing it. So because I couldn't figure it out. So I could have figured it out if I'd taken the time, but I had to be able to put it on my website. It was just going to be a pain. So I didn't do it, but I will next year. But it's cool because they're not. I sort of canvassed a whole bunch of people, and people will add to it every year. So I put it out there to my friends and family. I'm just like, hey, what do you do with your leftover turkeys? And people got it really into it and sent it to me. And then now all I have to do is add any new recipes each year. And I try and add a few. It started out, I think the first year it was like 15 recipes, and then it became 20, 24, and then this year it was 30. So it's just a fun little thing. Just anything you can do to just sort of sweeten it a little bit more because the bird, people are dropping over $100 with me. So
yeah, it's a big investment for
a bird.
Yeah. for a 1-day celebration.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
I love all the follow-up that you do. The recipes are a great way to do that.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun too because it's like, I don't know, pageantry kind of thing. I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like you have a question. Do you free range or use a pen for your birds?
We do they have a movable pen, so they're on pasture and they get moved around. So we don't put them in like one of those Quonset huts. We put them, they have a hut and they actually have perch space as well. And not super high off the ground, but it's pretty close to the ground. But we do allow them to perch, and we move, so we set up a large pen, and then throughout the week they get moved around. Their housing and their food gets moved around within that area just to help with labor, and then we move the entire thing to another spot. And we actually do batches, so we only do 100 in a batch, and then we order 4 times a year. So we'll skip. We usually do about 6 weeks in between the two, so that they're a little bit more than a month in difference. So we don't ever have 400 birds at one time because I cannot process 400 birds at one time. It's just we're a small operation, so we only process 100 at a time, and that makes it a lot easier too. So, but they are moving around.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, if anybody else has questions, feel free to type them in. Let's see. Is there anything else you think people should know about marketing their bird? Things that you found really helpful, things you wish you'd know, or things you've learned along the way?
Don't be apologetic about what you're pricing. Price based on what your costs are. I price everything that way. I don't worry about what's the 39 cents per pound bird in the grocery store. I don't even worry about what my white broad-breasted people, my friends, are pasture raised birds are charging. They're usually charging in our area about $7.50 a pound, and I price it based on what my feed costs are and what my labor costs are, and that's the way I price it. And there's a certain amount I want to earn off of them, and that's the way I do it. And I'm not apologetic about it. You don't have to buy a bird for me. I prefer you buy a pasture raised bird. It does not have to be for me, but we do well, and it's not. I mean, you always want more customers, but it's never any. I don't ever come out of turkey season feeling like I didn't. I always feel like I didn't do quite as much as I could do, but that's just me. But I definitely feel like it works for me because I've set it up so that it works for me, because it can't be so onerous or you feel like you've wasted time or money or anything like that at the end.
Absolutely. I mean, raising turkeys isn't a small venture, and it takes a long time. So people should definitely charge what they're worth and what their birds are worth. And I love that you're unapologetic about that. I think that's awesome.
I'm so unapologetic about so many things, Brittany. You know that about me. So it looks like Lisa has a question. What is the one thing about raising turkeys that you wish you knew before when you first started? I knew it because we've been raising birds for a long time, but how important an a brooder is, how important your brooder is. Turkeys are pretty bulletproof once they get out of the brooder. In the brooder, they're like the biggest babies and wimps. I mean, you snap your fingers and they die. You have to be almost all of your losses and our losses, we don't have crazy losses, but I know people do, and most of them are in the brooder. So be very careful about the cleanliness of your brooder. We don't do any kind of treatments or anything like that, just because I don't like propping up my birds. I feel like my birds need to, they need to be given what they need to succeed, and I don't think I need to prop them up with any medicated feeds or anything. So we don't do anything for coccidiosis, but we rarely have it because I'm really particular about cleaning. We clean way more often than we need to. We are very careful about drafts, and which is more important with turkeys than it is with layers, which is, I've been raising layers for forever. So that really matters too. So that would be the thing, but I already knew it. But I think everybody who's starting with turkeys needs to know that that's when they're most vulnerable. And once they get their big bird feathers, they're fine. They're big boy feathers. They're really easy. They're really easy to raise. And it's only going to be until they get to this juvenile stage where the owls really like them. But once they get to a certain size, then the owls lose interest. So, but that's it. We lose more to owls than we do to anything else.
That's great. Let's see. I think you've got another question here. Do you get your birds from a hatchery or a heritage breeder?
I get mine from a hatchery because we need so many. And the one problem we had with going with a smaller breeder, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go with a smaller hatchery, but he could only give me 30, and it was just, and then he had a failure. So then I need it because I have to have those birds within that certain period of time, or else my entire year is messed up. My entire season's messed up. So unless I can have some sort of guarantee, whether it's maybe a larger heritage breeder, we don't use the big hatcheries. We use over the moon turkeys. They're a smaller hatchery, and I really like the quality of their birds, and that's where we get our bronze boar breasted. They're really, really healthy. Nice healthy chicks when we get them. It's like we don't have to worry about them. They're really nice. So it's like I think that's my biggest hurdle. I'd love to go and drive and pick up my birds from somebody in North Carolina. So if you are willing to raise a bunch of black Spanishes for me, I would happily do it. And we're going to raise our own this year because we kept 6 back, and we're going to experiment with that ourselves because we've incubated and we've hatched out birds before. So I think we're going to give it a go. But the biggest problem is just the uncertainty, because I'm already now planning my birds for next year, and they'll start coming in March. So, it has to be a well-oiled machine. That's my biggest problem. But yeah, I'd much rather get them from somebody local. Anybody know of anybody? And now I'm in love with the black Spanish, so they have to be black Spanish. I love them. They're fantastic.
That is excellent. You heard it here. Send Sam an email, chat her, and be like, "I got birds for you."
Or we're in the Piedmont of North Carolina. So we're in the northern part of North Carolina. So if you're in Southern Virginia and that sort of middle Virginia area, I can drive there too. That works too.
I love it. Let's see. Lisa asked, do you market your birds by having special custom labels on them with your farm name?
We do. I think labeling is really important. We have a logo that I love, and one thing that we do, because we have so many birds that we're handing out, so we're handing out hundreds of birds. Every bird comes with its own insulated bag with our logo on it, which every year is a different logo. This year actually it was our egg label because it's new and it's cute and I liked it, so I put that on there. But yeah, every label I've got my weight on there that I have to, because we're under the poultry exemption for processing for the $20,000 bird exemption in North Carolina. We can do the 20,000 birds. And we do, I've got my weight from my scale on there, but then I have an additional, stuff that we have to have in North Carolina, to be part of it. We have labeling requirements. So, and I always put my logo on there. because I think it's important to put your logo on everything because you want people to, I'm not as big about the colors. I know if you're really into marketing, you're gonna have your set colors and everything, and I'm not very good about that. And half the time I choose different images, but I draw everything myself. So there's I think there's a connection between them. They sort of have the same feel to them. I think it's really important.
It
Don't
is.
you, Brittany? You're a marketing
Yes,
person.
absolutely. Follow your branding at all times. Whatever level you're at is perfectly fine. I love that you have the insulated bags that go with it, and your turkey comes in. And Sam is an amazing artist, so she hand draws everything, and it's really beautiful. But you don't have to be one. There's lots of tools out there that you can use to help design either a logo or some artistic work that you can put on all of your stuff. But yes, put your name out there, put it on everything so people don't forget you. And insulated bags are really big now. I take mine to the grocery store and I put all of like my cold stuff in there. So I'm doing some advertising for our local farm.
That's what's really cool. You're right, because I mean, it's like at the market, people bring my bags and they're putting other people's products in my bags. It's really cool.
So yes, so look into that, Lisa Marie. I think that would be awesome for you to market your farm and your birds and whatever else you're selling.
And you build that cost into your birds. So that's a cost that I think the bags this year were maybe $4 each, and I built that into the cost of the bird. And when you're selling $100-something bird, it's drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it's all part of those little perks that you're just continue to give a little extra to your customers, and it helps bring them back because they love it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. Let's see. Martha says, yay for hatching your own. How much acreage do you use for your batch of 100 birds?
So we multi-species graze. So what the turkeys are on one week is what the cows were on another week, or what the sheep were on another week. So we don't raise our turkeys with our layers at all. They don't have, we have a couple of layers who think they're turkeys. They hang out with the turkeys, and then they go back to living with the layers when we don't have turkeys. And as soon as we get turkeys, they're right back in with the turkeys. I don't know what it is. A couple of buffs. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they're super cute. So of the 20 acres that we have available that's completely in pasture, we do not keep them in the woods because of predators. We only keep them out on pasture. I don't know how much, because they get moved around. We're probably using maybe 5 acres of that, but you wouldn't have to, not for 100, nowhere. I mean, so long as you can rest your pasture, and depending on where you live in the country, so long as you can rest your area before putting them back on it again, you want that grass to grow up. That's the other thing we do. We actually do not put our turkeys out on grass like you can't see. This like super high grass, like you would for a cow or something like that. That's why they go in after the animals have come through. I like my turkeys to be able to run, and they get caught up. It's like, I know I've got a friend, and that's what he does. He puts his birds out, and the grass is like 3 feet tall, and they knock it all down, but in the process they're tripping over stuff all the time. I want them to be able to run. I want them to be able to chase things. I want them to have a lot of movement, the ability for a lot of movement. So yeah, so I found that we've been known to mow ahead of time. If we haven't been able to catch up, we'll mow the area before we put them on it. So they've got shorter grass, and then they still have the clippings and stuff. But I think that's a key to them being so healthy, and why we don't have as many deaths and why our mortality is pretty low, is because I think they stay super healthy because they can run around. I think that's really important. I don't know if it's true, but that's what we've always done, and it's worked. So I stick with it.
But what works? It's clearly doing something right. So.
Clearly. There you go.
Let's see. Another user asks, what other heritage turkeys other than Black Spanish have you tried? Any pros and cons of them?
I've only tried the Spanish blacks, and I know the bronze broad-breasted are not considered a heritage breed, but they're different, and I had to market them because most people wanted those white birds with the cleaner carcass, the cleaner looking carcass. So I had to do a lot of marketing for the bronze broad-breasted because they do end up with those pigmented spots on the skin. When I first started out, once you get a few people who really like them, that's not that hard. But like I said, I almost got some Narragansetts, but I wasn't able to because the hatchery had a failure with their incubator. But I'd be interested. That's probably a better question for Brittany than me.
I have not raised turkeys, so I can't
Blue
speak
lab,
to it,
right?
but I know that there are different ones. Like you can get the midget whites and the Beltsville small whites. They're smaller birds, so if you're looking for smaller carcass for people at Thanksgiving, because everybody wants a smaller bird all the time apparently. Sometimes it's hard to sell those 20 plus birds.
It is.
Unless you're like me and you want the biggest bird ever. Because I love turkey and I want to eat it all the time. So I just get a giant one and then I spatchcock it and then I cook it for a few hours and then I freeze half of it and you can just, into little like Ziploc bags and you just grab it whenever you're doing something. It makes it really easy to do that.
I love that. And that's one of the things that, because our birds tend to be larger, we don't have a lot of the small birds. That's part of the whole, why I came up with the leftover turkey recipes, was to deal with that. Be like, that's fine. You can have leftover turkey and this is how you need to freeze it. And this is how, make sure you label it and all that kind of stuff. So.
Absolutely. Well, if you're looking for a comparison between some of the heritage breeds, there is a turkey comparison chart on the Livestock Conservancy website. Just go to the poultry page and look under turkey and you'll see a turkey chart. And so that can help you kind of decide which ones might be best for your area. So if you're thinking about adding turkeys, that would be a good place to go and do some research. Let's see. Martha would like to know where you get your insulated bags.
Custom ink. I get my shirts there too. It's this we were going to go with a different company and we got them. We actually did some research into bags because I have this bag that I stumbled upon the very first year I did the bags, and they did not have that availability this year. So that, because there's a lot of shortages, and custom ink there seems like there's a lot of availability concerns with a lot of different products. I'm having a problem right now with ordering shirts, and actually, Brittany, we need to talk about that because it's a pain in the butt. But so I went through custom ink. I know there's some other bag places that you can order through, and we had some samples shipped to us this year, so we could choose a different bag. And we ended up just going with custom ink because we know they do a good quality.
Great. Yeah, there's about 100 different places that you could order them from. So just do some research. Google knows everything. Custom ink is a really good one.
They're very reliable and they've great customer service. So I've had issues before, like especially with my logo not really showing up very well on different things, and they've worked through it with me. So I get my shirts from them. We do summer camps and I always give shirts out for camp kids. And so I've always done that. So I use them a lot for shirts. And then we've always had this one insulated bag that we've been using for forever. And we had to switch it up this year, which was very disturbing, but I got through it. We found another bag.
Yes, definitely get some samples. Make sure your turkey will fit inside of it.
That's the other thing. Yeah, get some samples. I want to be able to zip the bag up, but I don't have to. And you can't with those bigger birds. You're never going to find an insulated bag big enough for those big birds.
Yeah, but if you kind of know about what size your turkeys are going to be, definitely test those out. And it's a great way for people to just grab their turkey and go. So it's
and I put labels, really cute labels on the bags. But that makes it easy for me with packing as well. So the way I set up my bags is I've got a label on it. It's got the person's name. It's got what day they're picking up, whether or not they want me to defrost it, and then the size range. And then I stack them up, and we're pulling birds out of the freezer, and it's just like, okay, this is a 16 pounder. So we'll pull a bag from the 16 pounder area or line up or pile, whatever, and put the bird in and put it to whatever day it's going to, and then we pack everything back up. And but it is nice, and especially because nobody has enough cooler space for hundreds of turkeys. Well, maybe people do, like to take to market or something. So unless you're doing, even on the farm, I don't even have enough space when people come to pick up on the farm. I don't want to be pulling birds out of my freezer. So I actually lay everything out on tables, and having them in the bags makes a really big difference because at least they're staying cooler than they would. I mean, we're in North Carolina, so we're not crazy hot, but we're not crazy cold either. So it's not like outdoors is a refrigerator in November for us. So although it was this year for picking birds up, it was actually good. I was really glad. But
you just never know with North Carolina. It could be 75, it could be 35. Like,
you never
it
know.
depends on the day.
Keeps us on our toes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's see.
So Martha says she just has 6 acres of land, and that's plenty, I think, to raise turkeys. Yeah, I mean, you probably don't want to do 400, but I think you were saying earlier about 100. I think you could easily do that because you could move them pretty nicely. And we have an external, we have like a perimeter fence, which is woven wire, and then they're in the poultry netting from Premier One.
Nice. That is good. Let's see. Dana wants to know which heritage turkeys are hardiest. We have cold winters and hot summers. I think they're all pretty hardy.
Yeah, they're all pretty hardy. The way we do it, definitely the bird, it takes us long. So that's the other thing that we do. We try and get them on pasture as quickly as possible. So, because they're much more vulnerable when they're in that enclosed brooder, because the air circulation is not as great. Of course, they need it in the very beginning, but as soon as I can get them out on pasture, I put them out on pasture. My birds that I get in March, they can't go out on pasture until they have their big bird feathers. But my birds that I get in June, they're out on pasture. If it's not raining, they're out on pasture in a week. And they just have in there, their setup is a little different. It's a smaller housing situation, and then we can pull the tarp all the way down to the ground, so they've got a windbreak, and we break the wind from the north, and then we put the heat lamps in there, and then we rarely lose birds other than to predators. Like we don't have illness issues out on as soon as they get out on pasture. We don't really even in our brooder anymore, but or ever have actually. But I know that's where people mostly have their problems. So yeah, the faster you can get them out on pasture, the better. So it may be if you're in a cold area, they seem to be able to handle the heat just fine. We're in North Carolina, so they don't seem to have too much trouble with that.
All the time.
Say it again.
It's hot and humid here all the time.
Oh yeah. Yes, nasty here in the summer. It's just very unpleasant. But so I would, if you're going to raise your birds, just figure out, what's the latest you can be getting them and have them ready for Thanksgiving, because that's when you're going to have most of your turkey sales, unless you're planning on selling year round. And like I said, we do turkey sausage, which is doing really well for us. Then I would just figure out what that date is and then pick that date. Of course, if you're hatching out your own, you're going to have to, you can set them aside you can collect them for a few weeks and then put them in the incubator. But I would try and avoid if you're really cold, I'd try and avoid those early months, and just try and get them coordinated so that you can get them out on pasture as quickly as possible. And like I said, they can handle, so long as they have shade and they're in a nice sort of area with a lot of ventilation, a lot of air movement, they do fine in the summer. I haven't had any issues with them.
Yeah, you were saying as soon as they get their big bird feathers, they're fairly hardy.
They are. Yeah, everything's big bird or little bird. We have a little bird set up, the little bird feeders, the little bird waterers, and then the big bird feeders, the big bird pen. We're not very imaginative.
I love it. Again, Dana, we have that the chart where you can look and see kind of like which ones would do better in certain areas. I think they're all fairly the same. It just depends on how big they are. So we have some smaller varieties versus some bigger varieties. I'm not our turkey expert, but you could also, if you find ones that you like, you can reach out to anybody on the breeders directory list and see people that have them. And if you want to talk to them before you buy, or try and figure out a place to some other people that have already raised them in your area, they could definitely help mentor you or direct you in a better direction. I don't know. I'm rambling on.
No, you're not. That's good stuff. It's really good.
Oh, Lisa Marie says the comparison chart is wonderful. That's how we're able to choose ours. Yay! That's awesome. Thank you for that testimonial. That's
yeah, that's we sort of stumbled on those Black Spanishes by accident. I mean, They're really pretty when they're adults, but as juveniles, they look like vultures. So they're little. They will freak you out a little bit. It's not, and even the vulture. So this is fun. I think this is funny. It wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now. But I looked out at the pasture one day, and there must have been 60 vultures circling above they were 2 months old at that point, so above their pen. And I thought all the birds were dead, because it's like, no way. I'm like, what happened? Did a fox get in there? What happened? And I go over to the pen, the area that they were in, and no, the vultures mistook the juvenile black Spanishes as vultures, and they thought they were eating and they were feeding. So they all sort of they circled for a while, like maybe 10 minutes, and then they gave up and went away. But it was a little disconcerting.
It's a good way to have a heart attack and be like, oh no.
Yeah, I thought it was like, oh my God, I've pre-sold all these birds and now they're all dead. And they weren't. They were all perfectly fine.
That's good.
What a relief. So don't be surprised if you end up attracting some vultures just for a period. And then they outgrew that stage, and they were too big. They didn't look like vultures anymore. At least from the sky, I guess, because we didn't have any problems. Or maybe vultures talked to one another. I don't know.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for talking turkey with us, and thank you everybody for these wonderful questions. I guess we'll switch real quick, and Sam, you've transitioned a little bit to doing some on-farm classes, and you found it's a good way to get people out to the farm and get to know you and the products that you're selling. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the classes?
Yeah, I think the classes are another thing where you're giving back to your customers. So I think that, definitely our bread and butter is always going to be, I hope it's not always, I'd like to get out of farmers markets at some point, but our bread and butter is definitely farmers markets right now. That's where we make most of our money. And I think it's, I started doing the classes before we even had the farmers market. So it was a way for me in the beginning. I was doing summer camps and I was doing classes, and that's where we got most of our farm income. And we were doing some breeding stock, but mostly it was just the classes and the summer camps. And then once we started having a product that we were actually selling, then I stepped back from the classes somewhat, and I'm sort of getting back into them, doing them more. I do about 3 or 4 in the spring, 3 or 4 in the fall. Sometimes, like this year, it was only, I think I'm going to be doing 3 classes total this year for the fall, and I did 3 in the spring. But yeah, I do different things, like things that I know how to do. Like I know how to make cheese, so I do a cheese making class. I know how to make sausages, so I've got a sausage making class this Sunday. And and what was the one? Oh, we did a whole hog butchery. So I'm sort of experimenting with different classes, seeing what people want and which classes I can fill up. I can always fill up a cheese making class. I know that. It's a little harder. I've had some guest instructors, and that's a little bit harder. I did a class, it was an on-farm watercolor journaling class, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, and I really, really enjoyed it. But it's hard to get people to sign up for that for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And then I have to pay the instructor. So if you're going to do online classes, first off, start with the things that you can actually teach. Because you're not going to make a huge amount of money off of it. Like I do 10 people, up to 10 people. And usually I charge around $100 per person. And usually people go home with stuff. Like the sausage making class is $110 because they're going to go home with some sausages and that kind of thing. So just, play to your strengths and the things that you know how to do. Like I used to do a soap making class because I went through a period where I made tons of soap, and I'm like, well, not everybody knows how to make soap. I can teach people how to make soap. And so I did that for 1 year, it's just like, whatever seems to strike my fancy. And I wanted to learn how to do watercolor journaling. That's the only reason why I did a class on it. But nobody else seems to like it as much as I did, but I thought it was great fun. But, yeah, it's a good way to bring people out. And I feel like, because we do raw milk, we do herd chairs, and especially with the cheese making class, that's a great way to get people into your herd chair is to teach them how to make cheese. And that's, then they want to join your herd chair, which is, I think, how Brittany started. You did cheese making class. Then
I was like, what am I going to do with all this milk? And then I was like, oh, let's make some cheese. This is awesome.
You did the herd chair first, then the cheese making. Yeah. Oh, okay.
It was one or the other. I don't even remember. It's been so long.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Like, We just kept having, because I don't drink a lot of milk, and neither does my husband. And so we were like, well, what are we going to do with all this milk? And he was like, there's a cheese making class. Let's do that.
Yeah, but you don't have to be like the ultimate expert in whatever you're doing, but you do need to know what you're talking about. You do need to have made some mistakes and screwed some stuff up. But I also do some animal husbandry classes too. I was going to do one in the fall this year, but we just got too busy with the turkeys. But I usually do one in the spring, at least one in the spring, and I do one because we've got small ruminants, and then I also do cows, and then I do another one on with chickens. I specialize in backyard chickens. I don't enjoy doing that as much just because it's been so long since I've done backyard chickens, because I have a lot of chickens. And it's very different. Backyard is very different than production, so it's a little bit different, but I do like it. I like it a lot, actually. I'd like to move more into but getting back into classes and more away from farmers markets. I don't like getting up in the morning on Saturdays anymore.
You have to get up so early.
And it's tiring, and then I have to take a nap afterwards because it's exhausting.
It's important with the classes, like you're thinking about your overhead, and you already have milk, so it's really easy to show people.
Mm-hmm.
With backyard chickens, it's really easy to just show people what you're doing and take questions and for them to participate. And so I think that's a good way to help people learn about the things that are going on, because they're not connected anymore to
they're not. And then there's also that connection you get with those customers. It's like anybody who's ever taken a class, I have a different relationship with them, even if they're like regular customers than I would if they were just a customer. So it's like there's like that a little bit more depth in those relationships that you have with people, which is fun. I like that. I like having, I don't know. I like people. So
you're definitely a people person. I love it.
Except for on Saturdays when I'm done, I have to take a nap and no one's allowed to speak to me for the rest of the day. Those are the rules.
Let's see. Lisa Marie says she read an article in Mother Earth News magazine about on-farm classes. So that's a good resource for people thinking about doing classes on their farm.
Especially if you're just getting started, I think it's a great way to bring in that extra income. Not everybody can do summer camps because kids are, I feel like that's a skill set you have to have. It's a lot easier to teach a class, and it's a lot easier to teach a class with a bunch of adults because there's expectations. But I have that book, The Art of Natural Cheesemaking. I have that book, Martha. That's so cool. The other thing, I keep getting people who want to do classes and then do a wine and something. So a wine and cheese. And so they'd make the cheese and then they'd camp out. And I don't know. I don't know that I want people to stay around that long. It's fine if they come for the day, but I sort of want them to go home. But we've talked about doing that, maybe doing that. But I do love cheese making. That's actually my original passion is cheese making and dairy. Everything else has come from trying to make money doing other things so that I can have as many cows as I want. Everything. I'm not kidding. That's where the turkeys came from. That's where the chickens. Everything is about me getting more cows.
It's all about the cows. I love it. Books by Dante asks, how can I determine if there's a market for classes in my area?
I think there's probably I have people who travel hours to come to my classes. So I think if you're in a more rural area, when I very first started out my classes, I partnered up with our Durham Parks and Rec. They had this series of heritage classes that they were teaching, and I became a guest instructor for them. So that would probably be a good place to somewhere to start. And I was in a homesteading Facebook group, and I taught some classes through that as well. So it was just like I sort of, when I was first starting out, before I had the market, because the market helps a lot, because I can go ahead and go to market and I advertise my classes at market. I've got, pretty robust email list, even though everybody's not local, but I have a lot of people on my email list, so I can email them in my weekly newsletter. But I think so long as you're not in like a town of 5 people, you should be able to get people to come to your classes. But if if they are going to have to travel, so if you're in a very rural area, and I know there are certainly parts of the country that are way more rural than you could ever get in North Carolina, you can't get that rural in North Carolina, but because there's always a city to get to somewhere within a couple of hours, certainly within an hour, but you might want to extend it and make it into a 2-day event and maybe have some way for people to spend the night, that kind of thing. The way I do my cheese making class, because it's a multi-day process, is I actually start making my cheeses 3 days ahead of time. And then I do it the day before. And then so it's like a cooking show, when people put it in the oven and then they pull it out. I do the same thing with the cheeses. It's like, okay, this is what you do. And then you let it rest overnight. And this is what it looks like the next day. This is what it'll look like. So think about the process of how you're going to teach your class as well. And also I have a habit of sending people home with too much stuff. So I need to make sure I'm looking at my bottom line a little bit better.
Well, it's good to send handouts. I think if you're thinking about getting classes, you could always do a poll of your current customers to say, hey, we're thinking about hosting online classes, or not online classes, on-farm classes. Would you be interested in this, or this, or, put a time out there. So you can always poll people. You can ask people at your market, if you sell at market, have them sign up, a little clipboard, or just informal, hey, customer that always comes, like, what would you think about doing a cheese class with us?
That's easy when you've got the customers.
Sure.
But when you don't have the customers yet, which is where I started, it is harder. It's harder to try and get your name out there. But that's why, I did a lot of stuff in the beginning where I charged virtually nothing. Sometimes it was just free, or I charged $5, or I charged just materials. And you have to do that in the beginning until you get a little bit of a reputation, and then you can sort of take off with it.
Yeah, I love your idea of joining other groups to help support, and then they're kind of bouncing ideas after each other, and getting your name out there that way. I think that's awesome. And if you want to do some guinea pig classes, not like for guinea pigs, but like, hey, we're testing this out. We'll give you a reduced rate. I think that's a good way to build interest.
Yeah, I've certainly done that as well. Anytime I try a new class, I try it unless I'm pretty positive it's going to work out well. And I also, like with my cheese making classes, I can only do up to 10 people, but like with my backyard chickens, I can do up to 20 people. I'm pretty comfortable with that. So I can charge less for that.
That's a great question. All right, I think we're winding down. Martha's got our last question here. She says, what kind of cows are your favorite? We got a couple Galways for meat, and they aren't friendly like our milking cow. Maybe it's just their personality.
So I have very strong opinions about my cows, and I don't like any other breed other than a Jersey. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if I meet a cow that's not a Jersey and it's lovely. I don't care. I only like my Jerseys, and I absolutely adore my Jerseys. So I don't, as far as I'm concerned, no other cows exist. Only Jerseys.
There are some cows that are much friendlier than others. There are big, strong personalities. And I think our chart online under cattle has a kind of personality traits they talk about, if they're more docile, if they're good for beginners, if they have kind of friendly personalities, and some are not friendly. And, that's just their genetic.
That's the thing about a Jersey. A Jersey is always going to be a nice cow. They've got big personalities. They're very confident in themselves. They think they're more important than you, and so they're nice to you. They're not scared, and that's the thing I can't stand. I can't stand a scared cow. It's just too difficult. I like a friendly cow that will push you down rather than anything else. And Jersey milk is amazing. You're right, Dana. Jersey milk is amazing. And Martha, I agree. I've never had a Guernsey, so I don't know about Guernseys. But I do love Jerseys.
Guernseys are on the list. They're pretty cute, and I like them.
I know Jerseys aren't on the heritage breed list. I'm sorry, Brittany.
That's okay. That's no problem. You like your breed of cow? That's okay. Like,
I'm
here for people to find out which animal is for them. Great.
Although I will say this, I am breeding for a smaller cow. So I am breeding for more of a heritage style of cow, just because I think it fits better on a pasture-based system.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, you should always find traits for animals that will fit for your system, what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be a heritage breed. We love it if it's a heritage breed, but it's your farm and your goals and the things that you want to accomplish. And if a heritage breed isn't going to work for you, you shouldn't get one just because it's heritage.
It's true. It's true. It's very true. It's got to work for you, and it's got to work not only in your system, it has to work with all the other animals in your system and we do summer camp, so I've got to have animal friendly kids, animal friendly kids, friendly animals.
It's got to work both ways.
It's got to work both ways. Exactly.
Animal friendly kids and kid friendly animals.
Exactly.
That's perfect. I love it. Well, we are right at our hour. I want to thank everyone for your amazing conversation today, your awesome questions. Thank you so much for being so engaging and making this fun. Sam, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. That was fantastic. I love it. I know I learned some new things today. I hope this is helpful for everyone else as well. Just want to say a big shout out and thank you to ManaPro again for sponsoring our Marketing Monday today. And thank you to all of our members and supporters of the Livestock Conservancy. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you for helping making programming like this possible, education and outreach possible. So we appreciate you. Sam, is there anything we've reached our shameless plug. Is there anything else you'd like to plug?
I love the shameless plug. So I work with the Food Animal Concerns Trust. So if you're raising livestock, you probably, and I'm sure if you're doing heritage breeds, you're probably doing it on pasture. So you would fit right into the Food Animal Concerns Trust mission. We have our humane farming grants available, Fund to Farmer grants. They are open right now. They're up to, I think, $3,000 for each project. I really suggest that you go check those out. They're great. That's how I got my start with a lot of, before I was working for PACT, I got a couple of those grants, 3 of them actually. So they were very helpful at that time. And actually one of them I got for my turkeys. So, it's getting my turkeys out in pasture sooner. And then I also own with my husband Bull City Farm, which is in northern Durham County. And you've probably heard over the last year all the different things we raise. Things we do. Anyway, thank you, Brittany. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. And that's bullcityfarm.com for the Bull City Farm, and the FACT website is foodanimalconcerns.trust.org. They have lots of great webinars and things that they're doing. If you're looking for money, grants and funding, or a mentor, they have a mentor program, and so we highly recommend all the things that they're doing. So.
I can't believe I didn't mention the mentorship program. It's ending actually in a few days. The applications are ending. So if you are looking for somebody, if you're just starting out and you're looking for somebody to help you with a particular project, or just in general, just help getting something up and running, especially with turkeys, we can set you up with a mentor who's got that kind of experience, and it's one-on-one mentorship, which is super nice. It's very unusual. And you do have to pay to be part of the program. I think it's $200. And as a mentor, so if you feel like you've got enough experience that you can apply as a mentor, you get paid $500. So we've got grant funds that cover that difference. So
that's wonderful. Yes, please help each other out and go to the website and apply.
It's a great program. I love it.
Awesome. Well, I think that wraps it up today. Thank you again to everybody. Thank you, Sam. And we'll be back next week. We'll be entering it's turkey month now. We'll be entering goose month, where we talk about geese, one of my favorite poultry.
I love geese.
We'll be talking about all of our fancy geese and not so fancy geese, and geese that are delicious to eat, and I'm so excited. So we'll see you soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everybody.